Okay, we're ready for another one of our installments on our road trip. We're taking our 40-year-old Jaguar car. We're trying to drive from Alaska through all the lower 48 states. We've made it from Alaska to Ohio, and then we went up to Michigan, and now we're going to go from Ohio through the corner of West Virginia to Pennsylvania, across Pennsylvania, and head up towards northeast. So let's go along and see how it goes. We ran into a few issues. But most things developed pretty well. We ran into Evans Auto, which is in Columbus, Ohio, and they happen to support Jaguar, Ferrari, Lamborghini, a lot of different cars. We saw McLaren in their parking lot. That was pretty neat. But you found the right Jaguar shop when they have a Jaguar V12 engine as a coffee table in their customer waiting area. It's a V12 block with a glass top over it, and I thought, wow, that's pretty neat. So let's go along and see how this journey works out. Here is a McLaren car sitting in their parking lot. Here is some Buckeyes in Ohio on the tree. Here I'm coming up with a solution. We're right next to a tennis ball court, and we keep having a problem with the engine compartment getting really hot because we have some exhaust leak and it heats up the compartment. So I took some tennis balls and used them to hold the corners up on the hood. Happens the hood clams forward, and that's the way it works. Here we are in Granville, Ohio, and deer just happen to be all over the place. So we figured we'd show you some of our observations with the deer.
Please run away, baby.
Really?
We are heading east, and we normally don't see buildings shaped like a basket. So here's a Longerberger basket. I guess they built this building as their headquarters. Anyway, there's quite a sight to be seen as we drove down the road. So here's the basket building. There's nothing like driving through Ohio and seeing a good-sized tractor on the road. So this is some of the scenery that we saw on the road. Nice, well-groomed road, nice scenery, cut back. Really enjoyable, some farmland nearby. This really shows a lot of our scenery we saw in Ohio and Pennsylvania. Now the main thing is, this is a road trip in memorial for my parents that passed away. They had done a couple road trips across the U.S., going to and from Alaska to the East Coast and back. A couple for a move for the World's Fair in the 60s. But then they also went and took a vacation and took this car and did a road trip on the East Coast. So we're bringing this car back to the East Coast and going to all 48 states. So this is just some of the scenery that we saw as we drove through the corner of Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. Got real busy when we were up towards Pittsburgh. But this was some of the weather and the scenery that we had. We really enjoyed this part of the country with some leaf changes on the trees and just some nice smooth roads. With a 40-year-old car, we tend to have some engine sputters or a few little issues. Of course, we have gorgeous weather, great road in front of us, and our passenger has to worry about something. So she worries about how we're going to do on this trip. We need to get up through New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, and get down to Boston in time for her trip back to Alaska. So, of course, there's some concern there. But we have great weather, great road. The car is running good. For being 40 years old, you're going to have a few issues. But we get it going. It likes the open road. It likes cruising along. We tried to repair the air conditioning. It has some issues, but you just enjoy that it's moving along under its own power, and we're able to take in the sights of America. This was some great weather and great road that we got along our road trip. Heading across to the east side of Ohio and back. I did this 2 times to get some parts. This happened to be a truck that I came across that had an American flag symbol or logo on its tailgate. A lot of patriotism there. But I'd driven this a few times to go get some parts over in Steubenville and get them to the shop in Columbus, Ohio, so they could fix some things on my car. Then we got back on the open road. We had to drive the same route again to get over to West Virginia and Pennsylvania. But we're heading east, and we're going to see if we can make it up to the northeast states and get into Boston at the right time. These slopes and grades are really nice compared to some of the mountains that we climb across in Alaska and Canada. Nice scenery, nice sky, great weather. We really don't have much to complain about. Here we just, it's getting into the evening, but with the setting sun behind us, we still have a great bit of driving to do, trying to get into Pittsburgh. This is the type of driving that we're used to back home. We call this a highway. Unlike the roads that we're going to get into when we get into Pittsburgh, where it gets pretty busy and pretty crazy. A lot of lights and a lot of signage and barricades. This is a tribute ride. My dad was a civil engineer, so we always appreciated bridges, the spans, and the weights that they carry. So railroad bridges and automotive bridges and overpasses are pretty impressive. We'd always look at them when we drove around, and here as we drive, they catch our attention. So you'll see quite a few examples here of some overpasses or some railroad bridges that we saw along this section of our journey. This here was a stack of timber alongside the roadway. Thought, man, that's a pretty good pile, whoever's putting that together. Kind of wonder if they're using it just for firewood or what else, but boy, that sure caught our eyes. We came around, transitioned onto this other route. But again, the sun was great, the sky was clear, the trees were changing colors. It was a nice evening for a good drive. So this route took us alongside this lake, and we thought that was a pretty nice view, driving alongside in a clear evening with this wonderful lighting. Great road. In the bottom right hand corner of this image, you can see the green tennis ball, how it holds the hood open a bit. So the air comes through by the radiator, flows through and right up by the windshield. So we get lots of airflow through the engine compartment. And the secondary latch holds the hood closed, but the tennis ball gives it, keeps it open and also gives it a little give there. So it worked out really well on this trip. We came along this church alongside the route, and we also came across a farmhouse that they look pretty, but boy, when the sun sets down here, it starts to set really quick. And so we're fortunate to capture these as we came by. Got some more footage in before it got dark. There's a pretty old farm, but then there was also a farmhouse that was there that was pretty nice too. Then all of a sudden it got dark and we're heading east, trying to get over to Pittsburgh. It's dark in countryside, and then all of a sudden we start getting close to Pittsburgh. We get lots of signs, lots of intersections and transitions, and lots of construction zones. And boy, do they put out the arrows and reflectors at construction zones. There's West Virginia. So we're rolling into West Virginia for a little bit, and then, oh, we're back into Pennsylvania. So we made it from Ohio, West Virginia to Pennsylvania. But boy, when they have those construction zones, they have a lot of reflectors and a lot of arrows. So when you're new to the area, it takes a little while on some of those zones to figure it out. But here we are cruising at night in Pennsylvania, trying to find our way through Pittsburgh and to an outlying area of Pittsburgh. Here we are west of Pittsburgh, and we're trying to head into Pittsburgh, see if we can get through Pittsburgh this evening and find something on the east side of Pittsburgh. My wife was amazed at how well a steel town of Pittsburgh, how pretty it could get down by the river. Lots of lights. It was real surprising. Now, my dad, being a civil engineer, would have really appreciated a lot of these things in and around Pittsburgh. Even the construction zones, detouring traffic, routing things around, the overpasses, the traffic control zones, and here we even go into a tunnel. So the tunnel was pretty neat because we have one tunnel in our state, but this was pretty neat to drive through the tunnel and to see some of the overpasses, the on and off ramps, retaining walls, all those types of things would really would have interested my dad. So this is some of the footage going through that tunnel, which I thought was pretty neat. And then we'll come out in Pittsburgh. Here we're coming out of the tunnel and we're starting to see Pittsburgh, and then this curves and goes down by the river a little ways, and another decorative pretty awesome design bridge that we're going across. There you can see down the river, and it's just really neat to see this build up in infrastructure. This is not regular for us, and so we find it pretty amazing to see how everything works in the big city. This is a real pretty part as it comes down and follows the river for a while.
It's pretty.
My director, my camera person, my wife, and my passenger really enjoyed this section along the river. I think she really liked the lights. Here are some more bridges. Look how strong that railroad bridge is to come over that span. That's just amazing. Then some other bridges for roadways up above there. Just amazing infrastructure that we built in America. And even that retaining wall on the left hand side. Just amazing the work that went into building elevated roads. And in our area we have earthquakes, so we'd have to plan earthquakes for that type of thing. But just some amazing infrastructure. And yet here's yet another bridge. You have to take that in awe and just be amazed at what we built in that short section of roadway, all the different projects that made everything come together. Tunnel, bridges, retaining wall, more bridges, and we come across all this busy work in the city, and then all of a sudden we come into more tunnel. So then we're going back underground again. Seems like they have layers of structure here, and that's just pretty amazing infrastructure. We're getting pretty tired and we can't wait to find our hotel. Here we are getting through on the east side of Ohio, some construction zones, a whole bunch of markers and barriers, signs and blinking lights flashing at your face, and luckily it comes across to our exit. So then we're going to take this exit here, and hopefully we're ready to call it a day. It's been a long driving day, and we finally found a Holiday Inn Express. So this is Alaska Road Trippers. We'll be seeing you on down the road.